a higher number of affordable housing. And if we don't have any revenues available, or we can also look into trying to find ways to create a fund for affordable housing, which is increasing the tax rate for one penny, that it will be set aside for that and used later for that.
Thank you. And Melissa Feld.
Well, budgets are moral documents, and I'm committed with my experience in the Senate managing senators' budgets and making sure that everything that we did, which was public record and scrutinized by the press as well as the constituents, was followed the best efforts and the best way to manage the limited resources to maintain a very large staff and travel and all the expenses insured. And I think for our city, we've maintained that kind of fiscal responsibility, but there are budget requirements we're going to need to make. I mentioned the school building. There's going to be some other development and infrastructure underneath our roads with our sewers that we're going to have to address in the next 5 years and the next 10 years, and we have to start that budget planning now. And I think that we need somebody who's going to come in with a different perspective and say, these are the priorities that we need to be looking, and can make tough decisions where they have to say, you know what, we can't fund this, but we're going to have to figure out a way, maybe using the partnerships and reaching outside to our great support groups and the other parts of our community to let them take on that responsibility. And the priority for us is the safety of our citizens, good schools, and the health of our citizens.
Thank you. Final rebuttal card, Justin.
I was proud to lead on the City Council during two of the most difficult budgets our city had ever seen. We cut spending, we reduced the city workforce, but we made new investments in economic development, public safety, and early childhood education. That's the way that we knew Alexandria was going to lead the future. The way that Alexandria will make sure that we ease the burden of taxation on our residential taxpayers and shift that revenue that comes into the city is by increasing the level of commerce in this city. The reality is that if you take out the Patent and Trademark Office and the recent BRAC Development Mark Center, we haven't created a new job in this city in a decade. And in fact, we probably reduced jobs. We need to increase the level of commerce so we can decrease the impact on our residential taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Final rebuttal card, Boyd.
Yes, I strongly disagree, Justin, that we've been told for the last 15, 20 years that if we support development, it will reduce our residential property tax rate. Has that happened? I don't think so. I haven't seen it. So having developments, and especially the type of financing that we are proposing for the new developments, tax increment financing, basically diverting all the new revenue from Potomac Yards or the Beauregard plan to pay for amenities in those areas, and therefore not having to dip into the budget for public investment is not the right way to finance them.
Thank you. Final rebuttal card, Paul.
Thank you. As I said in my opening statement, the biggest challenge we're going to have in moving forward is getting that better balance between commercial and residential development. That is the way. Fees, all this other stuff is very peripheral. The only way we have is real property tax. And the best way to do that, to support all these things we heard about today, public transportation, education, all the capital needs, the only way to do that is to raise that capital base and focus our commercial development around the metro stations and be committed to doing it in a right and appropriate way and in the right spots.
Thank you. Our next question for the final 5 candidates of this section. Please give us an idea of your vision for the future of Alexandria. What should Alexandria look like 30 years from now in 2042? Arthur Peabody.
Well, the vision for Alexandria should be the community's vision. It should be your vision. It should be, produced by meetings like this where people come forward and state what they'd like to see Alexandria be 10, 15, or 20 years from now. And I think a lot of the controversy we've had over development is that discussion has not been had, or if it's been had, people don't feel like they were involved in it. Neighbors will say to you, well, we're living in an urban society, or we're developing urban villages. Nobody asked me. And I think it's very critical that we have a consensus view of what we want the future to be like. And after we do that, I think we need to review our 20-year-old master plan, because we have to stop having all of these disputes every time one of these small area plans comes up. People say, well, we need the development for the money, for the commerce, for the taxes, and the debate just continues. It's like a revolving door. we need a consensus as to the future vision for Alexandria.
Thank you. Same question, 60 seconds, Allison Silverberg.
Thank you. Well, this goes right to the heart of my campaign, a core vision for the city, which I think is missing. We need a place that's vibrant and livable for all of our people. We need to encourage areas where there's much more mass transit, build around that so that people get out of their cars. But we also have to maintain our open space and tree canopy and our beauty and our natural historic beauty. This is key to why people come here versus other communities. There are thousands of Silver Spring, Marylands, God bless them, and I have tons of friends there and I love it, but there's only one Alexandria. So we need to work on creating that shared core vision and what that will look like. But I don't think that it looks like National Harbor. It's fine for them, but it's not fine for us. Thank you.
First and second shots fired across the Potomac. Justin Wilson.
The reason I'm running for city council is because my vision for this city is a city where my two children are going to want to come back just like I have and buy their first home here in the city and raise their children here. The way we get there, and with all due respect to my good friend Mr. Peabody, our master plan is not 20 years old. Our master plan has been revised step by step, engaging our community over the last decade, starting in 2002 with the Alexandria plan, and right now up to where we are dealing with the Borough Garden Waterfront plan, and hopefully concluding in the future with Eisenhower West. We have gone and engaged people in their neighborhoods in how they plan their future, the future of their neighborhoods. And that's my vision for the future. I want a city where traffic is not affecting our quality of life, but is something where we have transportation options to serve our neighborhoods. I want a city where our fiscal health is secure. And on into the future, we are not worried about high taxation and low levels of commerce occurring in our city. And most of all, I want a city where every child starts kindergarten ready to learn because they've had a high-quality preschool education. And every child leaving T.C. Williams is ready to compete in the 21st century economy. That's why I'm running for city council. That's my vision for the future.
Thank you. Del Pepper.
Okay. Well, he kind of grabbed my thunder there. I guess what I would like to see, besides all of the above, is I'd like to see some interesting places. Restaurants that are destination places, as well as family-oriented places you can walk to. I'd like to see a whole mix of that. I'd like to see a lot of good places for us to recreate, if you will. And also interesting places for us to shop. And for heaven's sakes, I do hope that Landmark Mall is developed by then.
Thank you very much. Sean Holohan.
I want a livable, walkable community for the entire city of Alexandria. I live on the West End. I've got to cross King Street 3 times just to find a sidewalk that I can walk on. To me, livable, walkable is not getting hit by a car. I want a city that people feel good about their schools. They don't pull their kids out. I want a city where people who have kids who have developmental disabilities don't pull their kids out of schools. I want a city where people, want to move to because they feel like they can get a good job. We've lost 5 different businesses to Arlington because we have a hard time attracting the creative class. I mean, we should not be having our lunch being eaten by Arlington. Arlington does development better around Metro. Apparently our schools are better. I mean, we should not be in competition with our neighbors. We should be attracting people here. And the way to do that is by growing our commercial tax base so we can afford all the wonderful amenities that we have here. Yes, it's expensive to live here, but it's because it's such a wonderful community. And it costs $61,000 for a family of 4 just to be able to afford and scrape by. And the way we have to keep people in here is working with developers to have more affordable housing. If we do that, we can have both the highest earning people in Virginia and both the lowest earning people in Virginia living side by side in a great community.
Thank you. Any final use of rebuttal cards? Yes, John.
Because I'll be a little older by that time, I want to make sure that our seniors and our older Alexandrians are able to afford to live and stay in this area. My mother didn't have to worry, 10, 20 years ago about my grandmother being able to stay here. But that's something my children are going to have to worry about for me. And I think that's the issue for us in Alexandria, regardless of what we talk about, is the affordability of Alexandria. We need to ensure that the next generation is able to stay here. We need to make sure that our schools pump out great students that are able to achieve and be successful as well.
Thank you. Donna.
In 2040, we've got to finally, I think, pull together as neighborhoods. Right now, we are competing among ourselves, I fear, way too many times. And that's a tragedy for all of us, because we all are fighting for the same city. We've got to pull together and start realizing that the West End, where I've lived for 30 years, has some wonderful, wonderful parts to it that are historic. Old Town is wonderful too, and there's all kinds of neighborhoods in the middle. And my vision for 2042, when I will be needing senior assistance and senior housing, is that we can all be here working together cooperatively.
Thank you. Victoria.
I want a city where the current people and families that they live now on the small Beauregard plan, a small area plan, live here, and they are here in 20 years ahead from now. I want a city where those children attending right now, William Ramsey, John Adams, and Paul, are here in 10 or 20 years, and they are graduating from our city. I want a city where people come first before profits.
Thank you. Do we have a final rebuttal card?
Is this our last chance?
It's the last chance to use it. If you got it, you can use it. Got it. If you haven't used two. Melissa.
There's been a lot of great things said about the vision for the city, and one thing that I think is we need to be a leader in the neighborhood, amongst the jurisdictions. We can lead on environmental stewardship, we can lead on our schools, and I think we can lead on how we assist our aging population to stay in their homes. We can take creative approaches because of the beautiful communities that we all love and that small town feel that we all engage, and find a balance between historic and modern. The vision I have is that I'll be able to stay in my house, and maybe I'll live on the main floor, but the city will have services where I'll be able to go to the library or that kind of thing.
Thank you. A final rebuttal card, Tim?
Well, I want to see a diverse and vibrant city with a great quality of life where my kids would want to live here as well, and not just an upper middle class white enclave. And so that goes to a lot of the issues on growing the commercial tax base. I agree. But it's also that the use of smart growth principles, sometimes that phrase gets thrown around kind of loosely, but it's not just transit-oriented development, it's also mixed-use development so that people can walk to what things they want, and complete streets so that are welcoming to bicycles and wheelchairs and strollers, and placemaking, so creating places, great places where people want to live and work and visit, and all of that starts with doing transportation first in all of our development.
Thank you. A final rebuttal card. Yes.
I want a city that my kids will be able to, from pre-kindergarten all the way to post-secondary opportunities, be successful and understand that Alexandria was one of the best places for them to go to school. I want to have a city that, as a business owner one day, that I'm able to understand that I'll be successful here as well and able to diversify our work base that way and bring in new employees, and everyone has a chance to achieve their dreams. I want a city that allows me to understand that it loves diversity, and it will allow and work hard and stand up for working class people to make sure that anyone with different income levels can live anywhere in our city, because we're inclusive, we're Democrats, and that's what we're about. I also want a city that stands up and makes sure we have safe streets, because our communities need to be strong. And I want a city that understands that we need to be proactive towards solving problems and making sure that we're doing the right thing for our people. Like Susie Orman says, people first, then things, then money, then things.
Thank you. Now we've come to that portion of the forum that everyone, I'm sure, is waiting for, the candidate asks candidate a question portion. In each case, you will have 15 seconds to ask a fellow candidate a question. The candidate who has been selected for you at random has 60 seconds to respond to your question. You can ask anything you'd like. There will be no my point of view rebuttal opportunities in this round. The first question is to be asked by